I want to welcome you back to our podcast. And Greg and I this morning we're talking about setting different priorities. We kind of got focused on how health needs to be our number one priority. Greg and I, in our podcast, we talk about different things that affect our sales approach. We talk about things to help build our business and those kinds of things. So, yeah, we're looking for ideas. So, if you have any, let us know. So, welcome back. Enjoy the podcast. So, hey there, welcome back. And I'm here with my friend Greg DeMarco, and we're going to change it up a little bit today. We're going to talk about establishing priorities and how they can impact our careers as realtors, as salespeople, as business people. Because if you're in sales, really you're in business and you're in business for yourself. So you have to figure out what your priorities are. So, Greg, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's fun to be here with you, Don.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, we should probably just do a recording of the stuff we talk about before we actually push the record button, and then people could see how nonsensical some of the stuff is that or
We talk about?
how we get to where we are. So anyway, that's another topic. But
Yeah.
so priorities, how important are setting priorities for you, Greg? And and I don't want you to ask me this question, but I'm going to ask you this question. How good are you at establishing them?
Well, that's an important thing because I do establish priorities because it keeps things in order when we're trying to make plans and hit our goals, right? And priorities are extremely important, especially if you're in the sales field, any business, any life situation. When it comes down to it, if you don't have priorities and you don't have things mapped out to a certain degree or understanding of what's going to happen next, you have a tendency to roll off course. And I think that priorities for me, when I set them, and it's really a basic thing for me. I mean, I teach a mindset course where we went through this whole list of priorities that people sort of look at, and that's getting into a much deeper discussion. But really, for me in my life, I set up three main priorities for me, and I've lived this way for the last 5 or 6 years. And the three priorities I set are health, relationships, and finances. Now, there's subcategories to each and every one of those things, but that's the priority in sequence for me. It's health, relationships, and finances. And those are the most important priorities, I think, for anyone, and should be for a lot of reasons.
So those are the overarching priorities, and then within each one of those, you'd have, like, for finances, you would have your business priorities, say for example, and relationships. Well, relationships could be also under business too, so because you have personal relationships and then business
Yeah,
relationships. Okay, I mean that's interesting. I think it's important for us to think about setting priorities because, as you say, if we don't prioritize things, it's so easy to get lost in the day to day stuff that's meaningless. Like we if we don't establish a priority, we're not something as a priority and know why it's a priority, then it's not doesn't have that level of importance. So can, we don't bring it to the forefront enough
yep,
to be able to do it. So.
yeah,
Well, let's talk
yeah,
about it. Let's talk about health a little bit. This is one of the topics we were talking about before we pushed record, but let's talk about health a little bit. As business people, is it important? Why is it important to have health? And you said the health was your number one priority.
yeah,
Maybe tell your story a little bit. For
yeah.
people that haven't heard that.
So, for a long, long time, I was just a workaholic. Work, 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 work. I didn't really take care of my health, got very heavy. I averaged probably between 255 and 260 pounds. I smoked, I drank. And as you get older, it wears on you. And as a result, I had a heart attack. In fact, I had two heart attacks, as you know. But the thing is I got into a deep depression after my first one with all the meds and everything going on. I had a lot of personal stuff going on in my life, which wasn't good. But the reality was I ended up gaining a whole ton more weight. And I went up to like 320 pounds, which is huge. And I'm 6'2". Okay, I'm a big guy, but still 320 pounds is way too much. Anyway, I started to realize, long story short, I started to realize that without your health, you've got nothing. So if you're running a business, if you're a salesperson, agent, no matter what it is, you got nothing if you don't have your health. Same on the personal side. Relationships are affected, your job is affected, everything is. And I realized too that I wouldn't be around very long if I was still 320 pounds going into my senior years, as I put it. So I took a drastic step and started losing weight. And to date, I've lost probably 100 pounds. But I do that very intentionally. Yeah, thank you. I do that very intentionally. And I'm very dedicated to it because I realized, I always say never waste a good crisis. So if you have a heart attack or a near death experience, really think into that, because for me, it was a game changer in my life. Without my health, everything fades away. So if you want to be a good salesperson, if you're a real estate agent or a boat salesperson or whoever you are, no matter what it is, if you aren't healthy, you aren't going to be able to figure things out very well.
I know that as well. I agree that looking after your health is a priority, and one of the things that I know that I lost about 40 pounds a couple of years ago,
Good.
and you gained part of it back, but anyway, working on losing it again. But the amount of energy that you gain, like just think about it. You were carrying around 100 pounds. You're
I was carrying a small person.
you're carrying a small person, on your back, so just like
Yeah.
that's a lot, so think about how much more energy, you have when you lose that weight, or when you're more careful about what you're doing. But what does it mean when we're, as a salesperson, to prioritize your health? And because it's sometimes difficult, because we feel compelled to be, like you said, you tend towards being a workaholic. You got to go, you got to make that next sale. And there's always, like it's like there's this carrot in front of you all the time that you think, okay, I got to go, I got to go, I got to go, I got to go. So there's how do we prioritize things? How do we eat right? How do we set things up so that they are prioritized and we're not messing our health up? How would you do that?
Well, it's a great question. I mean, it's a really long answer, but I'll shorten it for the sake of the podcast. But you have to really sort of set some priorities and intentionalities about that, because for me, I was close to death, and it was my first heart attack. I had a second one, but I realized that I really needed to think into this and make some significant changes, because without it, I can't think properly. I was foggy. I couldn't walk very well because I was carrying around a lot of weight. Like there's a lot of that's going to interfere with your work. It's going to interfere with your relationships, your life. And you have to start thinking of it that way. How important is your health? Do you want to live a long life? Do you want to be healthy? I had started down the road of diabetes. I had gout. I had so many issues health-wise, inflammation. All that's gone now just because I changed my diet and I exercise. And as we get older, like I'm 59 now, a lot of that, getting rid of that fat, was lifting weights and building muscle mass, but also eating right. So you have to think of it, you have to make a switch, a mental mindset switch in your head that says, how important is my life to me? Is my body a temple? And it is. It's a vehicle for you to get around in life. You take care of your car better than you do your body. Most people do.
Yeah.
Like they'll get the regular oil change, they'll get the brakes done, they'll get this, they'll get that, but you never take care of your body. And you need to, because it's the only one you're going to have. You can't go out and buy a used body.
Yeah, no, they don't work that way, right?
Yeah.
I think one of the ways that we can make our health a priority is by setting up different routines. And we've talked about the value of routines in some of our previous podcasts, but I know, like a morning routine, like a morning routine, an evening routine, those are things where you can establish what your routine is. I mean, sometimes people say, well, I don't like routines, but I'll challenge anybody to say that you have a routine every time you wake up in the morning. You do the same things pretty much every
Yeah,
in the morning. So why not just take a look and write down what you do every morning, and then figure out how to make it more efficient and better. And part of your routine has got to be eating breakfast. So how do you make that a better routine? And then I think there's things you can do in your as a salesperson that's always on the go, and there's things that you can do. You can take time. You can set up a routine where you do. Okay, here's my food prep for the week. So you prepare. Okay, these are the quick. Because I know for me, what's sometimes I ignore the routine, and then all of a sudden I'm hungry, and then I'm just grabbing whatever I can to
that's what happens.
and then that's the bad stuff, right? So usually what I'm grabbing is not healthy, but if I've planned it out and established my routine for eating, and planned to have healthy snacks instead of chocolate bars or the cookies, or cookies is my big thing. So
Mine too. Mine too.
yeah, I mean, cookies are that's yeah. I have a hard time passing a plate of cookies.
Yeah, me too. But this is, you're right. It's a habitual thing, I'm just going to tell you flat out. So basically, you have to make a mindset switch, and for me, it was a little easier when you're in a near death situation. Those priorities start to come into focus. But making a change is making a concerted effort and being disciplined and doing it. And for me, it was okay. I need to do something. I need to make some changes. So I just started walking. That's all I did for the very first time. I could only walk a block or two, but that grew into 4, 5, 10 blocks where I was walking 10K a day. But I don't do that as much now. What I do is I lift weights. But what I did was, how I set a routine was, I thought, okay, for me, getting up, I'm up early in the morning anyway. I'm going to do my exercises when I get up. So I make a shake, which is, berries and bananas and some other things that I put in there. I gobble that down, and then I go to the gym and I work out for 45 minutes. Then I walk there because it's close enough, but far too that I get a good walk in. And then I'm done my exercises for the day. And sometimes I'll do some calisthenics or some stretching during the day, but that's what I do. And every morning. So I know what I'm doing. Monday to Friday, I get up early, I go to the gym, and it's now just a part of my day, and that's how it goes. You know, that's how you set these priorities in your life. But you have to set them, and you have to be intentional about them. That's the thing.
Yeah, I think that having a routine is important, and I appreciate what you just said. It made me think about how important getting enough sleep is as well. You
Yeah,
know,
it is.
um,
Sleep is
because
imperative.
yeah, if you're not getting enough sleep, if you're not getting enough restful sleep, that's I think that we can do certain things in our evening routine, to help us shut our head down, because I don't know about you, but my brain just keeps going, right? So if I'm busy on my computer or something till it, and then I decide to go to bed, I'm still thinking about everything that I've been working on. So I need to have time to shut down. So how do you shut down? How do you shut down the rest of your day? So I think that's important to when we're thinking
Well,
about getting better
it
sleep.
is, and you hit on a very, very important topic that, in and of itself, is I wind down. I usually get to bed between 9 and 11. It depends on what I'm doing or how my brain's functioning. But yeah, so what I end up doing is I don't like taking sleeping pills or anything like that. I take some magnesium, which helps me calm down. And then I just think about some of the things that I need to reflect on. And I just either read or do something like that. But I get myself to a state or meditate, and to a state where I'm ready to go to sleep. But magnesium helps. I take that at night, usually a couple hours before I hit the sack. And yeah, and I try and get a minimum. It's hard with me because I don't sleep a lot, but when I do, it's 6 to 7 hours is where I try and land. More 7. If I can get 8 hours, great. But I just up early in it, so that's why it's important for me to go to bed earlier.
I have a Fitbit watch. My kids gave it to me for Christmas, and it
Oh yeah,
measures my sleep. So it
yeah,
tells me whether or not I've had how much restful sleep I've had and that kind of thing. And I think I think it's important because I never realized how that my sleep wasn't good. I always thought, well, I had a good night's sleep, and then sometimes you wake up and you think, wow, I felt like I was wrestling with somebody all night, because I just
yeah,
didn't feel rested at all, But I think
yeah,
that's when your brain is, just going and going and going and going and going. You're not
yeah,
you're thinking
yeah,
about too many things, or maybe you get stressed out over a deal or that. But I think when we have that, we need to recognize that not every deal is going to go together, and you got to recognize, okay, what's the worst thing that could happen? If it doesn't go together, well, you don't get paid. So go get more leads.
yeah.
That's the answer to worrying about your deals is make sure you have enough leads where you have enough in the hopper where you're going to not have to worry about whether or not a deal closes or not.
Yeah, yeah. There's lots of things that go on in everybody's life, and I know when I was younger, in my 20s and 30s, I probably had the stamina to go longer and maybe get less sleep. But the reality is simply this: if there's one thing that you and I one piece of advice that we could give to the audience who is younger, let's say, don't put off health. I did that when I was in my 20s and 30s. I gained weight, started gaining weight a lot in my late 30s, early 40s, and it just kind of piled on slowly after that. And you know what? You can't do that. If you do, you'll have health problems. You just will. You'll have diabetes, you'll have gout or some kind of form of something else. And the longer you can stay healthier, the better it will be for you. And you won't get in a situation where I was in, where, it all just kind of piled up till I had a heart attack. And now I had to work my butt off for a good 2 years to lose 100 pounds and get back into and I still have weight to lose. That's how heavy I was. So, just take our advice and, your body, you have one body and you'll only have one for your whole life, and treat it like a temple.
That's great, Greg. I appreciate that. I appreciate your transparency on how fat
Yeah.
you were. A lot of people don't like to talk about how fat they were.
Yeah. Yeah. How
It's like a
fat I
fatty,
was.
fatty.
I was a
Yeah.
fat guy.
Anyway, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Very
Anyway,
unhealthy.
yeah.
So,
Anyway, thank you, Greg, and we'll talk soon about a couple of the topics we're thinking about is talking about ethics. So
yeah.
I think that's going to be an interesting one because ethics are important in the way we do business. So anyway, we'll see you soon, and thank you very much for watching, and have a good week.
Thanks, everyone.